Okay, so this lovely little Defender Td5 that we've just fitted the 550 GTB turbo setup to, amongst many other bits and pieces. It's been a busy week. Right, we have just done with our base runs on the dyno with our base 550 GTB mapping. It's not going the best. So, 192 horsepower and 444 newtons of torque. So what you've got here, I've stripped it down a little bit. You've got the brake horsepower and torque only, no transmission losses, no power at the wheels displayed, just power and torque before and after remapping. Now, if you look back, this made 94 horsepower when it came in. I think it was about 235 newtons of torque as well. It was significantly down. However, when we was doing the 550 install, we noticed that the air filter was soaking wet. The airflow meter wasn't working also, and there was also a leak, a boost leak as well. So you would naturally think that those were the causes, but sadly this one is not able to deliver with our mapping. So what we are looking at doing is swapping out a set of injectors. So in some cases we might clean a set of injectors, but with this one I think these ones potentially quite poorly. So yeah. Right then, another day. This one is has not come to us so easy. So essentially where we are at with this one, we have essentially just fitted a set of reconditioned injectors. So just about to essentially power test the car with these replacement injectors in there. What we've got uploaded here is the wheel horsepower and engine horsepower on the screen from the previous run with the old injectors. So vehicle's up to temp now. Just going to turn up this lovely fan. It's already quite cold in the dyno cell, so we don't really need to be running the fan at full power. So, fuel up temp. Fuel temp's getting right up there as well. So air inlet temp 16. All right. Let's do a thing. Third gear, fourth gear, full throttle. So 222 horsepower and 499 newton-meters of torque. That's a lot closer to where we want to be. Obviously you can see the torque curve has got a less than ideal curve. But just after 2000 RPM we may be able to sort something out there with the mapping. Again, that is why we're using dyno, so we can see things like that. We can prove that, we can plot that on a graph and we can improve it. So we're not relying on our backsides when we're out on the road. I know that that can often be a good way of tuning a vehicle, but for fine tuning and perfecting things, this is where we're at. Right, okay, so with a revision to the mapping, we're just about to put a bit more temperature back into the engine, and we will get on with testing. See if we can find a bit more power. Horsepower, that torque curve, it's like a nice smooth progressive arc. Once the torque ramps up, we want it to stay flat rather than ramp up to flat and then increase a bit more. That's an ideal like that. We can do better. Anyway. What I will show now on the dyno screen is quite a few lines, quite a few squiggles. We've got the remap for the old injectors, the remap for the replacement injectors, and what you'll see building now on the dyno graph is our map revision as well. So I'll just move you from here to here. So 230 horsepower and 519 newton meters. Those numbers themselves are actually quite good. The map that we've just put on the car, we would expect to see a bit more than that from this ideally, a lot closer to 550 newton meters. And around sort of 250 horsepower. This bit here is rather strange. It's in the process of finding out exactly what is causing that, so we'll just have a look at the log. This might have actually made a bit more horsepower than we're just displaying there. See on the transmission losses, I've just had a little wobble. There's a difference here. It's had a little wobble on the rundown, so just finding that out. I've got a little tool called a drag wizard. That enables me to check this out. So wizard on here. No actual control over straightening the line, but I can click that. And it's actually not affected the car, but what it's done is it's just ironed out the drag there. So it's nice and even. In some cases you can find a little bit more power. It will have bumped up the horsepower at the point here, but after peak horsepower, hence why it's not affected the peak. Right, back to looking at the data on the Manacom. I want to review what the boost is doing here. It's okay looking at the Manacom and live data, but sometimes you are better off going back and looking at the log, because you may see something on the log that you might not have seen in real time. As the data is captured in much more detail when you are logging. Okay, so where we're at the moment, we've just put on a map file that should really, and we've proven this time and time again, that should really make around sort of 250 horsepower and 550 newtons. What we've ended up with is 225, 504, so quite a way off. Now, what injectors are in this vehicle are a replacement set that's been proven that has made respectable numbers before, but has never been pushed to sort of 250 horsepower. Again, that's not a goal, but as a benchmark, put a known file on there just to test if engine and injectors can actually go that far, but at this stage, it's looking like it's not. So, what is next? Where do we go? What do we do? Who do you call? Live tuning. Anyway, a brand new set of injectors are on their way and they are going to be fitted in this Defender. So our next clip, I guess, will be power test with brand new Land Rover injectors. Let's see what they'll do. Just taking a look at the old injectors versus the new ones. Right, okay, so another day, and in the Defender we have now a brand new Land Rover original set of fuel injectors, which we'll have shown. So, where we are at the minute, we've got a very cold Defender, just about to bring things up to temperature before we do some more power testing. Now, we have not altered the mapping at all. What we expect to find is that the power and torque is increased by quite a lot with these brand new injectors. I'm quite excited to see what happens here. Brand new injectors are very expensive. So it's the first car to be run on the dyno today, so just going through all the settings on the dyno, just make sure everything's preset, exactly the same as it was previous days when we've tested the vehicle. So setting things like the load on the dyno, 100% load, and the start time for the pull as well. At what wheel speed will we start the pull? So just as before, in the background on the dyno screen, we will pan to the dyno screen when we're ready. What we'll have is the last power test this vehicle did with the replacement injectors, not the original injectors, with a replacement set of injectors. Right, so moment of truth with the new injectors. Let's see what she'll do. Look at that! Woo! Right, okay, so a little bit of smoke from that one. We'll be cleaning that one up for sure, but that looks like that should have been quite a lot of horsepower and torque. So that's done quite well, 245 and 568, that's a lot of torque. So look at the improvements there, that's great. Right then, so what did we just achieve? There was actually a little bit of a wobble on the transmission losses. I just put the drag wizard on there earlier on in this video, I think I did show that. So it gained us 2 horsepower, 1 horsepower, 2 horsepower. Anyway, 247 and 568 on the newtons. So plenty of horsepower and plenty of torque. A little bit more than what we're actually asking for. But the reason why we've got more than we asked for is we put a full fat, what we call a full fat tune for a 550 on there, just to see if with the new injectors we could achieve what we would normally expect for something like this. So a bit more torque than we would normally see, and what, 3 horsepower less. But essentially, yeah, pretty good. The dyno cell's nice and cold, so always fantastic for testing power this time of year for sure. We've got a little bit of a dip in the torque here on the run up as the torque builds up. I'd like to see sort of this peak value somewhere along here, but again, not finished with the mapping, and we are looking at things. There was a bit of smoke from that one, and we are quite against having the smoke on the road going vehicles. Certainly the road going vehicles. Yeah. Customers asking, this one could be nice and clean, nothing silly, but plenty of power, as much power as possible without any smoke from the exhaust. So again, like previous videos, when we are done with the power testing and we're at that final figure where the customer will be handed the vehicle, we will show what the smoke's like. I think it's always important to show the horsepower per smoke. Power versus smoke ratio as well. It's something that a lot of people are talking about recently. You know, what can you do 200 horsepower without smoke? It depends on the turbo, depends on the build, depends on the health of the injectors. That, I mean, I guess that is the big topic here right now, the injectors, and how different sets of injectors are giving different power results. Very interesting for sure. Okay, so with a much cleaner remap applied to the vehicle, we're about to test it to see where we're at. Right, so some temperature into the vehicle. Keep the window down for this run. We'll see if this improves the audio a little bit. Those that have been watching previous videos may notice hopefully the improvement on quality of the camera and the audio in this one. Using a DJI Osmo Pocket 3 currently. And sometimes a GoPro Hero 11, I think it is 11 that we're using. Alright, here we go, full throttle now. So we seem to have figured out the lazy spot at the bottom of the RPM at around 2000 RPM. We've filled that full of a load of torque, cleaned the emissions up an awful lot. Barely a whiff of smoke out of that one now. And oh, just have a look at the drag wizard there. There's a little bit of a wobble there as I let off. Sometimes these Defenders, if they don't have absolutely rock solid suspension, you can wobble on the dyno and the transmission losses pick it up. So just put that on there, and we've got a lovely result there. So let's take away the background. Final result, they're in. 239 horsepower and 546 newton meters of torque, and a big fat slug of torque in the mid-range, exactly what we wanted with a clean exhaust. So right, yeah, real happy with those numbers. 239 horsepower and 546 newton meters of torque. Phenomenal, really, that. A little bit more than what we was aiming for, but this is just one of those vehicles now with a good fuel system on it, with a good set of original injectors in there, brand new, delivering power. Fantastic. So I'm just going to save this run now. Add some notes, clean file. And I'm just going to repeat this as well. It's important that these vehicles are consistent as well at producing their power. So, let's have another go. Just watching that exhaust now, smoke, hopefully you can hear me nicely. Speak into the microphone, so far nice. A little bit of a haze now. Data looks good. Yeah, that's pretty good, pretty damn good. Let's call it 240 horsepower. Clean. Awesome. What did it make? .8 horsepower and 537 newton meters of torque. Essentially, with a bit of heat soak after a pull, the more runs you do, things get hotter, and this is why we like to see how consistent these vehicles are. So I will save that one. Data's looking good. And once again we'll repeat. So quickly, first, second, third and into fourth gear, full throttle now. Tiny little haze of smoke at the top end of the range. I think we'll clean that up. Definitely get rid of that. We want these emissions very clean. And 235 horsepower and 534 newton meters of torque. So it kind of looks like everything's got heat soaked now, and that's where it's going to settle. Save that. So yeah, finishing off with some lovely power and torque figures there. Fantastic, fantastic improvements on the way that the torque runs up. If you think back earlier, the torque was kind of dipping out here, and it was less than ideal at one point. So really happy with the way that the torque ramps up and holds for an awful lot. Let's call it 1,000 RPM of very, very strong torque there. Well over 500 Newton meters for over 1,000 RPM. Happy with that. Horsepower looking good. Again, those numbers. You're looking at the top one there, 235. And then the torque, 534 Newton meters. Bearing in mind that this came in, wow, thinking about it, this came in making 94, 95 horsepower and around 240 newtons of torque. So yeah, do the math. That's a big difference. Wow. So yeah, this has been so far quite a blessing to take this one on. The owner of this is in for a real treat, no doubt. He's actually a fan of the channel, seen some of the previous videos and said, that's what I want. So we featured a GTB550 recently, and we didn't push it to the max. We kept emissions clean, we ran a standard airbox, and he liked what we did, so yeah, he was massively enthused with that. So we're not quite finished. I'd like to clean the emissions up just a little bit more. There's a hint of smoke at the top end of the range, and we want a proper clean exhaust on this one. Road car, so emissions, you know, real clean. Let's do it. Okay, so essentially now we've just cleaned up the mapping there a little bit, just to clean up the smoke just a tiny bit. And what we're going to do now is a demonstration of how clean the exhaust is. I've got a microphone, so a remote microphone, which I'm going to use, jump in the car, so I can still talk you through what's going on. Right, so some adjustments to the mapping, and again, just a demonstration of the smoke levels from this one. So full throttle now in 4th gear. Interestingly, making a bit more horsepower than with less smoke with the changes to the mapping. And that, of course, is down to adjusting the fueling, the way that the fueling's delivered. There's many different, well, many. There are several different ways you can skin a cat, I guess. Right. So 235.6 horsepower, so we gained 5 horsepower, had less smoke, and 533 Newton meters of torque. I'll do another one just to back it up. Definitely cleaned up the exhaust an awful lot. You do have to remember and respect the fact that, I mean, I've just done best part of about 80 miles per hour, and at 80 miles per hour on the road in the real world, there's an awful lot of wind and air and things going on around the outside of the vehicle that would often mask the slightest, even the slightest hint of smoke. So are we being too particular at this stage? Again, 233.7 brake horsepower, and 531.3 Newton meters of torque. So it's really strong. And where we are at the moment with this, I want to road test this one now to see what that smoke's like out on the road as well. I think that would look very, very clean. For what it's worth, I think I'm going to mount a GoPro on somewhere around the back of the vehicle, or the side of the vehicle, or somewhere to display that. Okay, so what I will do as well, I'll grab the camera and I'll just bring that towards the screen, the dyno screen, so you can see what the vehicle just made as well. Again, a massive believer in improving your work. Again, the curves on this looking fantastic. So 2 screens in the dyno. My eyes can't see this one from where I sit. So yeah, just allow the vehicle to idle for a few more moments before we do switch off. Hopefully you guys at home watching these are enjoying the new cameras that we've got, the microphone and the audio. Hopefully it's all better. Temperatures are good on this one now, come right down, so switch off. Just turn the exhaust extraction off as well, you can probably hear that in the background. So, right. Is it time for road test? Okay, I'm just making preparations for another run. We've just made some more adjustments to the mapping. I can't stress how passionate we are about making good, strong horsepower and torque, but with clean emissions. So that's why you've probably seen so many runs, power tests on this video. This is where we've ended up. 233.8 horsepower and 536 Newton meters of torque. So what you're seeing here is the original overlay, so what the vehicle made when it came in as standard. It was slightly down, again 94 horsepower and 240 Newton meters of torque. However, look where we are now. Right, so what I can do as well, there's an awful lot of squiggly lines on there. I'm just going to remove the power at the wheels and the losses, transmission losses on there, and also the engine horsepower as well. So what you're actually looking at here is torque. So this is the curve from where we are now, the tuned torque curve with the GTB550 turbo, and this is an original turbo with Land Rover's mapping. So let's have a look at some numbers. So at any given point, you can see the 2 values here, where the vehicle is now and what it once was. So there's also an RPM there. So if I just sort of drag that straight back to the beginning, Start off at the bottom of the dyno pool. You can see we're already sort of 60 Newton meters up, and as the RPM increases, so do the differences in the torque. And let's just pick 2000 RPM. It's phenomenal, isn't it? The amount of torque that the difference between the two. So I'm just sort of dragging this cursor across and showing you the live data there, the numbers. So yeah, again, where we make our peak torque figure 536 newtons, originally it came in making 231. It's almost laughable. I can't, forgive me for laughing. I'm not laughing at the job, I'm just amazed. You'd think, well, yes, I have seen all this before, but when you go down the route of logging something like this and you're talking about it, it sounds ridiculous. The gains are just absolutely phenomenal as I'm just moving that cursor along. So, yeah, it's a huge amount, a huge amount of torque there. So, right, that was torque. Let's have a look at the horsepower values. So, take rid of the torque and look at the horsepower. Now then, again, 233. Look at the difference between the two. Wow. So again, where the vehicle was making 92 horsepower, we're at 233 Newton brake horsepower. And again, as you will start off at the bottom of the run. So straight away, let's pick 2000 RPM as our set point there, look. Big differences between the two. We're at 3000, a huge amount there as well. So once again, just to display all of the data. The torque, the drag, and the power at the wheels.
Eventually.
Right, so essentially what we've just been looking at is the fuel pressure, and it is absolutely all over the place. We should be around the 4 bar mark at idle, and as you rev the vehicle out it should kind of stay around the 4 bar, but this one, as you've seen, is flitting anywhere between sort of 2 and maybe 7 bar of pressure, and as you rev the vehicle it doesn't get any better. So why are we looking at fuel pressure? Well, essentially when we was mapping this vehicle, it was struggling to get the emissions really clean, and we thought, well, we'll try some remaps, some maps that are known and proven to be nice and clean at the bottom end of the rev range, and we're struggling with emissions. So we thought, oh, let's have a look at some fuel pressure, and there we go. It is all over the place, and we have on order a new fuel pressure regulator, which is located just down here, and we'll be fitting that tomorrow when it arrives, tomorrow afternoon, midday afternoon. And what we will do is we will show this fuel pressure and show how different it is, and essentially we will be testing on the dyno without doing any adjustments to the mapping, and we're hoping that on spool that there's no smoke, no visible smoke from the exhaust. Essentially, I think that when that fuel pressure is jiggling about like that, it averages around sort of somewhere around the 5 bar mark, which is too high. So after doing lots of mapping and testing and trying new injectors as well, it really did need those new injectors. We're wondering if the injectors may or may not have been damaged by poor fuel pressure. It's definitely one that I'm interested to find out what's going on with. Looking forward to tomorrow with a new reg, and I guess the next clip we'll be testing and showing what the fuel pressure's like with the new regulator on it. Okay, so that is a lot more like it. Fuel pressure nice and stable. However, there's an issue. Just turn this off for a moment. I actually fitted a brand new fuel regulator and it didn't fix it. Sadly I never filmed that, but it didn't fix it. And going through lots of bits, lots of options, what could be causing the fuel pressure to be jiggling around as much as it was doing. It was moving from around sort of 2 bar to 7 bar. And well, what was it? And what's fixed it? Another new set of injectors. Would you believe it? So the original brand new set of injectors that we fitted in here from Land Rover, straight from Land Rover, our local dealer, was giving us some issues. So I'm going to continue on with the tuning and the testing and see where we end up. I'll leave the fuel pressure gauge on here so I can monitor that a little more closely. But yeah, how strange. New injectors, new. Stands for never ever worked. So always, even new products need to be proven. Right then, so just a bit of a recap with where we are at the moment. Obviously the 550 turbo's installed, we've gone through the whole vehicle, we've done gearbox, clutch, suspension, intercooler, turbo, exhaust, air filter, mapping, injectors, fuel pressure regulator, head gasket, uprated head bolts. Probably lots of other things that that have just not come to mind at the moment, but yeah, where we are at the moment, I've just covered the fact, and I'm just reminding that essentially we're looking at the reasons why we can't clean up the smoke at the bottom end of the rev range and still retain good torque. Essentially what has been happening is on spool we're a bit more smoky than we'd like to be. It's not a ridiculous amount of smoke, but there's no reason why at this sort of level of power an exhaust can't be clean. And what level of power is that exactly? Well, that level of power, just making sure the wheels are rolling. Yeah, that level of power exactly is around 230 horsepower and 520, 530 newton meters of torque. And we've been able to achieve it before. And looking into it, we got down to the point where we was dubious of the fuel pressure. And after looking at the fuel pressure, it was all over the place. And after trying a new fuel pressure regulator, I still didn't fix it. So against some other people's opinions, in the workshop I went and dropped in another brand new set of Land Rover fuel injectors. That, at this point, has cured our fuel pressure problem. So we're holding a steady 4 bar of fuel pressure, just over 4 bar. And the engine's just cut out. Switch off and have a look why. Right, so we did lose fuel pressure. It's there now. Sounds like there's a lot of air in the system. There's no part here that's leaking. Very strange. Now that appears to be very high. I'll get a rag and clean that. Wipe that down. So fuel pump drive over temperature, and also a code for open circuit or open load. Tacho drive over temperature. What? There's a lot of over temperatures. Glow plug relay over temperature. Open load. Okay, further investigations. Okay, so having a look at a few of those codes there, there's lots of over temperatures. I don't think I've ever seen an over temperature code on a Td5. I'm not sure. Not for not on a sensor, maybe on a over temperature on a coolant, but yeah. So looking at the fuel pump relay, essentially, it's not a genuine relay. So taking a pair of relays from another vehicle we've got in the workshop, and we'll see how we get on with those. See if it's a relay issue or if there's another underlying problem somewhere else. But yeah, essentially vehicle cut out. Just warming the car up and just warming the engine up, and it kind of felt like I was easing off the throttle. The vehicle was slowing down, and what's happening is the fuel pump's dying, or the pressure, or the fuel pump's cut out, and we're emptying the rail pressure in the head. But yeah, investigating that, and hopefully we can figure this out. I tell you what, this car is it's definitely giving me some jip, so no doubt it'll be worth it when it's done. And for what it's worth, I know I know that the owner of this vehicle is a big fan of the channel, so there we go. Just let the air bleed out of the system there before we do start it up. Hopefully that's it. Hopefully it's just a relay issue, but it could be a fuel pump issue. So we'll go again, we'll bleed again. Start her up. Fuel pressure currently looking okay. Didn't start too well then though, but I do think that's down to the fuel rail being empty. Give it some credit and see how it does go. Put the seat back in. What's that? Turn the fan on. Right, so turn the fan on, the extractor on, turn the fan on, and wait for the engine to cut out again. Cuts out again, I'm almost going to declare war with that fuel pump, just in case. Got one on order. Sadly, don't have one on the shelf. So. Clear the codes down because there's going to be a lot of codes for, there's all those over temperature. Let's just read a few of those out before I do clear them down. So just usual aircon fan, fuel pump drive over temperature, tacho drive over temperature, tacho, gearbox over temperature, a usual aircon clutch, non-aircon model. Mill lamp drive over temperature. Glow plug relay drive over temperature. Yeah, everything's over temperature basically. Faults cleared, back out there, back into faults. I've still got a code for fuel pump drive over temperature. Why is everything over temperature? Just wait for the engine to, well, I'm going to presume, I'm going to predict the future here. I think this engine's going to cut out. It's going to lose its fuel pressure. There we go. No. Bring up a bit more speed and request a bit more fuel, essentially. That might bully that fuel pump into faulting if it's going to fault. It's still very cold on the coolant temperature, only 56 degrees. No, here comes our fault, we'll cut it out. Damn. Stalled. Okay. It's definitely time for further investigations, but potentially time for a fuel pump. So, let's fit a fuel pump. Okay, so fuel tank drops out the way. No cutting holes in boot floors on this one. We've just wait for Will to drop the ramp. Thank you. Yeah, no cutting holes in the boot floors on this one. Not a live tuning. It's not the way. Drop the tank out. Just about to clean things up before I do start to remove the fuel pump. There's a lot of mud and stuff in there. So we'll get that cleaned up before we do start disturbing anything, just to reduce the risk of any debris going into the fuel system, ideally. So yeah, that's where we are with that. Right, so that is the fuel tank out of the car now, and going to be on with just cleaning up around the neck of the fuel, where the fuel pump goes. Make sure it's all nice and clean there, and then we'll drop in a fresh new fuel pump, genuine as well. It's worth adding. None of this aftermarket fuel pumps they're not ideal. So right, let's have a little look at this as well. So yeah, this is what I mean. I just want to clean up all of this crud from around where the fuel pump, I keep meaning to say filter, fuel pump's going to be fitted. So right, and obviously you can see various tools, bits and pieces that I've used to remove the tank from the car as well. So ideal using this jacking beam just to support the tank as you wiggle it out of the well. It come out all right, actually, wasn't too bad. And yeah, just going back to fitting these fuel pumps. Just going back to fitting these fuel pumps on these, mentioned earlier on, no cutting holes in boots of customers' lovely Defenders. For some applications, okay, maybe you will, but I think this guy would scream if I cut a hole in his boot floor just to change the fuel pump, when in about an hour, maybe, you can have the pump, you can have the tank out and have it changed properly. Right, fresh fuel pump. Back in the 90, back on the dyno, fresh fuel pump in the car. Road tested the car before committing to the dyno. Seems all right, delivering power nicely. So let's sync it to the dyno and let's do some more testing. Right, so fully up to temperature now with the Defender, and going to perform a power test, the first power test with this new fuel pump. So in the background we've got the previous graph. Allow the vehicle to coast down, lock it in neutral, wait for the results. So there's a little wiggle on the bottom there of the transmission losses on the drag. Let me just fix that for a moment. Just what I'm talking about is here. So at the end of the power test, there's probably a little bit of a wobble on the dyno, and as the dyno measures everything from the tyre, we'll clear that, and just at the top there, 231 horsepower and 527 newton meters, so pretty good. I would say just a whiff of smoke from the exhaust, and I mean just a whiff, a tiny whiff, using the word whiff there. Save that run, and we'll do another one, see if we can back that up. So just saving this run, Defender Td5 GTB550, registration in. Fourth gear test, new full pump. Set the arc on. Just checking the air inlet temp after a run there, 18 degrees C, not too bad. Ambient temperatures are around sort of 9-10 degrees, which is good for the dyno cell. Nice and cool today, good for power testing. Good for keeping engines safe. Right, one more run. So this run, we know what power it's going to make. I'm watching the exhaust there. Happy with that. Let's have a look at the power. Wait for the vehicle to coast down. What have we got? Just check it's for check for consistency. So 229.8 horsepower. 516 newton meters of torque. So as things heat soak, the intercooler holds a bit of temperature in it. Does steal a little bit of power, but consistent for sure. I think I'm quite happy with the smoke levels on that. So that said, I'll save this run, and I think we're going for a road test. No smoke from the exhaust. 230 horsepower and no smoke from the exhaust. Yep. The efficiency, good turbo, proper tuning, attention to detail, figuring out all of the little issues along the way. Not come easily, this one. Plenty of things to figure out along the way. Wheel spin. Yeah, a spot on that. Nothing, no smoke out the exhaust. Good power, enough to light the wheels up. Going well, that. Going really well. We'll continue a little bit longer on our journey, but yeah, wow, this one has fought me every bit of the way, but we don't give in it alive. We don't say that'll do. We don't tune around an issue. You know, we're always there for technical support. At the end of the line, you know, appreciate your custom, and we like to think that there's a lot of you that could vouch for that too. Passionate about what we do. We've been doing it for a long time. This gearbox is lovely. Got a Winchester Gears refurbished gearbox with a V8 fifth that we've fitted to this one. Gear change is real nice. Yeah, we got it. Found it. Oh man, what relief. Right, we'll head back to base. Just something I wanted to talk about, not related to this Td5, but we've got a large quantity of some biofuels, and we're going to be tuning with those in the new year, tuning our 90 to its highest level of performance and leaning on the biofuels to reduce emissions, potentially. We'll figure it out, we'll test it, we'll prove it, we'll do what we do. But yeah, that should be a fun little thing that we're going to be doing there. So yeah, watch this space. Why not subscribe? Click the bell. You'll then get a notification of when we do put up a new video. Might just be that video. Okay, so back from the road test. Finally happy with the results now. 229.8 horsepower and 516 newtons of torque. That was the last run that it did. It's not the strongest of runs that it's done, but happy with that. Let's have a look at the other run that we did with the current mapping and the fuel pump to see where that was at. So, there we go. So, that's made 231.5 horsepower and 527 newton meters of torque. So the reason that made a little bit more power and torque than the previous run is less heat soak, essentially. If I'm honest, wasn't running the dyno fan at its full power. So, I mean, potentially there could have been a few more horsepower there, a little bit more torque with better cooling, but essentially happy with what we've got. It's a lovely torque curve, lovely and fat, and it's strong, and it's the best part of 500 newtons for over 1,000 RPM as usual with one of these turbos. It's an incredible amount of torque. If you've ever driven one of these, you will know. However, if you've not driven one of these, if you haven't driven a a Defender, 110 or 90, with a GTB turbo, well, you can come to Alive. We've got 2 demonstrators, and what we can actually do is take you out in those. We can you can sample the 450 and the 550 GTB turbos. Our 90 at the minute has got a GTB550 turbo, so I mean that does require an awful lot of additional parts on the drivetrain, axles and props and diffs and various other bits and pieces, just for reliability essentially. But yeah, there is the option to road test some of our turbos before you do commit to buy, if you're not sure about how it might respond compared to another turbo, a stock turbo, another turbo that's out there on the market. There is always that. Right, also going back to some of our demonstrator vehicles, you could also sample the suspension kit that we've fitted to this 90. So that will be the Alive Comfort suspension. So what that actually aims to do is soften up and make the ride a much more compliant. We find that a lot of people are using Defenders more for daily use nowadays, and we developed a kit quite a few years back that would just make living with one of these on a daily basis just nicer. We've got our own spring and damper combination, and we can combine that with uprated anti-roll bars, Super Pro bushes for your chassis as well. Potentially you might have a higher mileage vehicle where the bushes are potentially a little bit more tired than a lower mileage example. Those bushes not for everybody. Some people do report a little bit too much feedback throughout the chassis, but on a high mileage vehicle, on a vehicle that you're going to be driving a little bit more spiritedly, it might be the way to go. So we've got all of that installed on our vehicles, on our demonstrators, our 110, our 90, along with the options for turbos as well. So if you are thinking of coming to Alive and you're not quite sure and you just want to sample, try before you buy, sort of. There's that option. So right, that's that bit. Right, okay. So that brings us to the end of this video. There's been an awful lot of content on this. 3 memory cards full. 3 memory cards, 3 different types of camera, finishing off with a DJI Osmo Pocket 3. Quite a lot to remember. Hopefully the quality and of the video and the audio has improved for this. We are working on that. We are quite passionate about putting these videos together and sharing about some of the videos and the trials and tribulations of what actually goes on within Alive tuning, and hopefully that comes across well. So it brings us to the end of the vlog. Thank you if you've watched this far. Please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and tell your friends. And like I say, word of mouth is such a powerful thing as well as social media. So if you would care to share a video, it would be greatly appreciated. So again, if you don't know, my name is Stu. I'm the dyno man for Alive Tuning, and yeah, this is Alive Tuning.